There are rules you're taught. Then there are rules Machiavelli would never say out loud, the ones that separate power from weakness, dominance from exposure. Most people think power is something you show, but Machiavelli knew the truth. Real power is in what you withhold, especially in public, because in public you're being watched not just by people, but by opportunity, by reputation, and by those waiting for you to slip. You don't rise by being impressive in public, you rise by being impeccable. And there are 9 behaviors, subtle, emotional, human, that will quietly destroy your presence, your mystique, your control, if you dare reveal them. Never complain in public. You might think it makes you relatable, but in the eyes of the powerful, it does the opposite. Machiavelli understood, when you complain in public, you signal 2 fatal weaknesses. You don't have control, and you expect sympathy. Both are poison. Power attracts those who can endure pain without broadcasting it. The moment you share your frustration publicly, you create a new identity. Not a threat, not a mystery, but a person who needs something, and the world begins to treat you accordingly. Stay silent, endure privately. Let them wonder how you never flinch. Never reveal your insecurity, in private, maybe with someone you trust, maybe, but never in public. Because what people see you admit, they begin to believe, even if it isn't true. Say, I'm not good at this enough times, and soon no one will trust you to be. Say, I struggle with confidence, and people will lower their expectations of you permanently. Machiavelli knew appearances, shaped truth. And nothing kills authority faster than volunteering weakness. So even when you're unsure, hold your frame. Let your internal uncertainty be invisible behind perfect posture. That's what unnerves them. Not what you say, but what you refuse to reveal. Never boast about your plans. You've seen them, people in public talking loudly about their next big thing. Machiavelli would smile at them, and then use their ambition against them. Because when you speak your plans in public, 2 things happen. People feel no urgency to support you. You're already doing well, right? And others now have a map to sabotage you before you even start. Announce nothing. Let your success surprise them. Move quietly until your results are undeniable. And when people ask, shrug, smile, offer nothing. Because power is best accumulated when no one sees it coming. Never take public sides in petty conflicts. You think standing up for someone makes you loyal in private? Yes, in public it makes you predictable. Machiavelli warned rulers, never become involved in the quarrels of others unless you stand to gain from the outcome. When you jump into a dispute, you gain an enemy without necessity. You create alliances based on emotion, not strategy. And most dangerously, you reveal your values before you have power to enforce them. Let others expose themselves. Let them fight. You observe. You remember. You position. Public neutrality is not cowardice. It's the preservation of future dominance. Never show hunger for attention. There is no greater stench in public than desperation. Whether it's laughter you force, validation you chase, or approval you seek, once people sense you need it, they own you. Machiavelli believed that the more you need others, the less they value you. Especially when the need is psychological. When you walk into a room and try to be liked, you become replaceable. But when you enter with composure, calm and disinterest, you create a presence they can't define. And what they can't define, they can't dismiss. Want influence? Want power? Then be the one who doesn't need the room. Let them come to you. Never break under pressure even slightly. Public moments of stress, arguments, disagreements, accusations, these are tests. And most people fail not because they explode, but because they leak. Their voice tightens, their expression flinches, their stance weakens. The audience picks up on this instantly, even subconsciously. And in that moment, your myth cracks. Machiavelli would never show pressure. He'd absorb it like armor absorbs arrows. Even when boiling inside, you maintain stillness outside, not robotic, controlled. Because once people see that nothing ruffles you, you become a psychological landmark, a figure they adjust themselves around. Never publicly over-explain yourself. This is the sin of those who feel they must justify every move. You say something controversial. You get a reaction. You panic. You go on a rant clarifying, softening, defending. And in that moment, you lose the frame. Now the crowd owns your narrative. You're reacting to them. You're explaining your existence on their terms. Machiavelli never explained, he redirected. Instead of softening, he'd make people question their own reaction. If they demanded an explanation, he'd respond, "Perhaps you misunderstood me," or "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, he remained in control of the meaning. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, don't. Let your silence make them question themselves. Never reveal bitterness toward rejection. Someone ignores you, doesn't include you, chooses someone else. You feel that flicker of pain, and maybe you want to show it, but public bitterness is self-sabotage because it screams, "I noticed, I care, and now I'm weakened by it." And Machiavelli would call that emotional suicide. When you're overlooked, dismissed, or cut out, respond with detachment, not passive aggressiveness, not fake laughter, stillness. Make it seem like they just freed you, like your attention is a resource, and they just removed themselves from access because they probably expected you to chase. When you don't, they'll start chasing themselves. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful. Not because they don't deserve it, but because you don't benefit. Calling out someone above you only makes two things happen. People see you as jealous, even if you're right, and the powerful now see you as a threat to neutralize. Machiavelli would find their weakness, yes, but he would never fire first in public. He'd wait until their guard dropped, wait until it made more sense to elevate them, just before letting them fall. If you must criticize, do it surgically, strategically, and preferably through someone else. Because power isn't in saying what's true. It's in deciding when the truth is useful. Power isn't just preserved by what you avoid. It's constructed silently through what you project with precision. Because when you remove the weak behaviors that Machiavelli would despise, you create a vacuum. And the world doesn't tolerate a vacuum. People around you will project meaning onto you whether you design it or not. So now the game shifts from avoiding destruction to crafting dominance. Not with aggression, not with ego, with stillness, with positioning, with selective revelation. You've already learned what to subtract. Now you learn what to install in its place. Replace complaints with unreadable endurance. When people complain, they leak need. When you endure in silence, you create mystery. Machiavelli would never show the pain. He'd channel it. In public, your silence in adversity becomes intimidating. Why? Because people fear what they can't measure. If you're under pressure and still unshaken, they wonder, how bad is it really? Why isn't he breaking? What is he planning in return? You don't need to smile. You don't need to pretend. You just need to radiate emotional indifference, the kind that makes people question their own strength in comparison. Your pain is your weapon, but only if no one sees it clearly. Replace insecurity with strategic ambiguity. Insecurity is a signal. Ambiguity is a mirror. The insecure explain. They overshare. They seek correction. But Machiavellian ambiguity is different. It leaves people unsure on purpose. You don't say, "I don't know what I'm doing." You say, "I have something in mind," and say nothing else. You don't admit confusion. You ask questions that shift focus. You're not pretending to know everything. You're making them unsure what you know. Because once people believe you're playing a longer game, they begin to overthink everything around you. And the moment they're distracted by your ambiguity, you have the advantage. Replace boasting with subtle power signals. Announcing power weakens it, revealing it accidentally. That's how you own the frame. The powerful don't list their achievements, they let them leak. You're not a leader because you say you are. You are because people keep looking to you during uncertain moments. You don't tell people you're building something, they notice your time is being protected. You don't say you've won, they see your silence while others celebrate. That's power, not in display, but in delay. When you master this, even your silence becomes a symbol of movement. Replace public loyalty gestures with quiet allegiance. When everyone's fighting and shouting their side, you stay silent, not because you don't care, but because you value influence over approval. The strongest form of loyalty, the kind no one sees. Machiavelli always served alliances behind closed doors. You can support someone, you can be loyal, but doing it in public, that's theater, and it usually costs more than it's worth. If you protect someone in secret, they'll trust you more. If you act neutral in public, you stay invincible. That's the move. Support privately. Rule publicly by revealing nothing. Replace attention-seeking with controlled withdrawal. The loudest person in the room is usually the weakest. So instead of entering with noise, enter with timed absence. Don't speak unless the moment is waiting for your voice. Don't laugh unless it punctuates silence. Don't stand where everyone gathers. Stand just outside the orbit and pull attention there because humans are wired to chase contrast. In a room full of performers, the one who holds himself apart becomes the anchor, the gravitational force. Machiavelli understood a ruler doesn't win with noise. He wins by being the one people adjust around. Replace breakdown with pre-planned stills. When you're challenged, don't try to defend yourself. Don't try to attack. Don't try to win the moment. Instead, create what Machiavelli would call preset postures, the pause before response, the stare without emotion, the lean-back silence after interruption, the refusal to match the other person's panic. These are deliberate physical moves that break the tempo of others. Because when people expect a reactive opponent and get nothing, they collapse into their own confusion. Your calm becomes provocative, and once they start unraveling, you become the one who looks like he planned the whole thing. Replace over-explanation with micro-mystery. The more you talk, the more they define you. The less you talk, the more they project. And when people project onto you, you own their imagination. So instead of explaining your decision, respond with, "Let's see how it plays out." Instead of clarifying your behavior, simply say, "It made sense to me." Now they have to work to understand you, and in the work they assign meaning that often exceeds your actual intent, which is perfect because Machiavelli never wanted to be understood. He wanted to be interpreted, and those interpretations were often more powerful than the truth. Replace bitterness with quiet exit. When rejected or ignored in public, you don't retaliate, you don't justify, you disappear, not in anger, in cold, refined detachment. Because the person who removes themselves without spectacle creates discomfort in everyone else. You didn't argue, you didn't beg, you simply withdrew. Now the crowd fills in the gaps. Did he know something we didn't? Was this a move? Why does it feel like we just lost something valuable? You've made yourself scarce without damage, and that makes your return, if you choose to return, infinitely more powerful. Replace criticism with delayed precision. You never strike the moment someone offends you. Instead, you wait, you study, you let time peel back the layers of their weakness. Then one day in a different context, you expose a truth so specific, so surgical that it looks accidental, but it isn't. It's payback perfected by restraint. Machiavelli never said, "That man is weak." He let the man's actions prove it, and then whispered a single phrase to the right audience after the fall began. This is how power moves through words, not loudly, but with patience. Control without perception is just invisible effort, and Machiavelli never worked silently unless the silence made others paranoid. This is the next phase, shaping the image people build of you when you're not around. Because in public, you're not just presenting your character, you're installing your legend. That legend isn't built through what you say, it's built through what you let people assume and how you respond to their instincts. It's about curating power by bending perception before anyone has a chance to define you. Machiavelli didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be feared and followed with no clear explanation why. That's your goal now. Most people talk to fill silence. The Machiavellian speaks to create it. Public perception isn't shaped by what you say, it's shaped by the gaps between what you say. When you speak slowly, when you pause before answering, when you leave thoughts hanging in mid-air, people begin to lean in. They start assuming intelligence where there's silence. They project meaning where you've said nothing at all. This is your weapon. Say less, mean more. Let pauses become a kind of invisible punctuation that holds tension. Let people finish your sentences in their minds. You're no longer a person delivering content. You're a presence they must interpret. Control eye contact like a weapon. There are only two ways to destroy someone in public without touching them. Stare until they break or refuse to look at them at all. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology caught up. Your gaze in public isn't just about confidence, it's about positioning. When someone's trying to bait you, arguing or overcompensating, hold their eyes calmly, never flinch, never overfocus. Just wait. They'll eventually shift away. And the moment they do, everyone watching knows who really won. And if someone beneath you tries to provoke you, ignore their presence entirely, not with arrogance, with cold detachment, that silence, that refusal to even engage. Visually it turns them into nothing, and the crowd sees it. Now they know your social ranking without a word spoken. Respond to provocation with calm redirection. The most dominant people in the room aren't the ones who win arguments. They're the ones who never appear to even join them. When someone tries to corner you with criticism or sarcasm in public, you don't defend, you don't escalate, you pivot, you smile faintly, you redirect the topic so elegantly it makes the aggressor look childish. And the room notices. They see you didn't need to win the moment. You simply walk past it. That's presence. And once people understand that you can't be baited, they stop trying. They adjust to your tempo. Now you control not just perception, you control the entire emotional temperature of any space you enter. Build a myth around your absence. The strongest moments of public power come when you're not even present. Because if you craft your image carefully enough, people begin to speak about you. When you leave, you say very little, you reveal even less, but you move in a way that creates curiosity. And curiosity breeds narrative. They start asking, what's he up to now? Did you see how calm he stayed when I heard he's working on something big? You've installed a myth, a low-frequency myth that travels through rooms without you. To build this, be just slightly less accessible than expected. Leave events early, enter moments late, say just enough to suggest depth, never the full picture. And when someone brings up your name in conversation, let there always be a pause, a respect, a slight caution, a question mark. That's legend building, and legends don't shout, they echo. Let other people defend you publicly. Most people panic when their reputation is questioned. They jump to their own defense. Machiavelli never would. Why? Because the moment you defend yourself, you validate the accusation. Instead, he'd let others do it. He built quiet alliances, maintained poise, and trusted that his presence had installed enough loyalty and fear that someone in the room would push back on his behalf. You must do the same. Speak in such a way that people enjoy quoting you. Move in such a way that people feel smarter defending your silence. And when someone questions you publicly, you stay still. Say only they're entitled to their view. Let the room attack the attacker. You just watch. That's how rulers operate. They don't fight rumors. They let the myth correct them. Master the exit moment. Machiavelli believed that timing was the hidden engine behind perception. You could say the right thing at the wrong moment and lose everything. You could win the crowd and ruin it with a weak exit. So you must master the last moment of your public interactions. When you leave, leave while interest is still rising, not after it has peaked, not when you're being dismissed. Leave with attention still in your hands. Walk away mid-conversation with a reason that sounds logical but leaves them curious. I've got to handle something. Let's finish this another time. That's a good place to pause for now. You'll understand soon enough. Not smug, just precisely timed. And then when you're gone, they talk. Not about what you said, but about why you left when you did. Now you're no longer a participant. You're the figure they recall when the room is empty. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics, he taught atmosphere. Your goal isn't to impress people in public. Your goal is to disturb their certainty, ignite their imagination, and create a presence they can't quite explain but never forget. But presence alone is defensive. Power begins when you use it. And Machiavelli didn't simply want to be respected. He wanted to move through the world like a loaded weapon, not always fired but always noticed. This is where most people stop. They gain self-control and believe that's enough. But Machiavelli knew restraint is only half the art. Precision is the other. So now you don't just walk into a room with presence. You begin to destabilize the room without moving a muscle. Use silence as a trap, not a shield. There's a silence that protects, and there's a silence that pulls people into mistakes. In public, use your quiet not just to protect yourself, but to bait others. When someone tries to provoke you, respond with a pause. Don't give them your words, give them your stare. Give them your stillness. Give them nothing. They'll start over-explaining. They'll escalate. They'll talk too much, trying to fill the vacuum you've created. And in that moment, the room watches them unravel while you remain perfectly still. Machiavelli would use silence as a test. Let them reveal what kind of person they are in response to your restraint. The foolish rush to fill silence. The powerful let it swallow the unprepared. Redirect questions into questions. When people try to corner you, trap you, or gain insight into your mind publicly, never answer directly. Redirect. If someone asks, "Why did you do that?" don't explain. Ask, "Why does that interest you?" If they ask, "What are you planning next?" say, "Wouldn't it be smarter if I didn't say?" Now the crowd shifts attention. They stop looking for truth in your words and start looking for meaning in your intention. You've just flipped the power dynamic, because when you answer, they own the pace. But when you make them explain themselves, you own the moment. Use micro movements to create psychological discomfort. In public spaces, most people try to impress. They use big gestures, loud voices, fast movements. Machiavellian strategy uses micro signals instead. A single glance that lingers too long, a smirk when someone else is trying to prove something, a slow, deliberate sip of your drink after someone finishes a passionate rant. These actions are deliberate minimalism. They say, "I'm not reacting because I already understand this moment better than you." It's dominance without volume. It's threat without words. These moves create unexplained discomfort, and that's where your power lives. When they can't understand you, they start adjusting themselves. Publicly praise the powerful with precision. Never criticize someone with more power in public. You already know this. But what Machiavelli would do instead is offer public praise strategically, in ways that double as protection. You don't flatter randomly. You identify someone powerful and say something sharp, simple, and undeniable about their strength. His timing is always perfect. She doesn't need to say much. You can feel it. You always know when he's entered the room, even before you see him. Why do this? Because the powerful remember who protects their image. And in doing this, you become a ghost ally. Someone who gains cover without showing submission. You're now included in their shield while still keeping your own weapon drawn. Never reveal who you're truly watching. In public, always act like your focus is casual, but in truth, always be watching. Who's seeking attention the hardest? Who's subtly trying to compete with you? Who's pretending to not notice you, but is mirroring your posture? Machiavelli would scan the room without ever letting the room know it was being scanned. Because your power in public isn't just in commanding attention, it's in gathering data without being noticed. The person who watches everyone is dangerous. The person who watches quietly is unstoppable. When you see patterns, when you know who's envious, who's insecure, who's pretending, you gain the power to manipulate them slowly. Not today, not tomorrow, but when it matters. Respond to disrespect with calculated absence. Nothing destabilizes a public group dynamic more than your sudden silence. If someone cuts you off, undermines you, subtly tries to dismiss you, don't retaliate. Don't prove them wrong. Withdraw your energy, your words, your attention. Speak to others. Change direction. Let the person realize they just removed themselves from your world without you even flinching. The crowd will notice, and the disrespectful one, they'll feel colder than expected. They'll start performing harder, and in doing so they lose control of themselves. You don't punish them, you vanish from their interest, and now their insecurity punishes them. Drop timed phrases that people replay later. A well-timed sentence is more dangerous than a 5-minute speech. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You need to drop one sentence that everyone replays in their mind after you leave. Machiavelli used to say, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are." You want to echo that principle with your own words. Things like, "You'll understand later." Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Power doesn't respond, it observes. You say it calmly in passing without emphasis, and it stays with them. They can't explain why, but they replay it. That's how you create psychological follow-through. Your presence extends beyond your voice. Your voice becomes ritual. Let public spaces turn you into a living riddle. Most people walk into a room hoping to be seen. You walk in and become a contradiction. Warm eyes, cold voice, silent posture, deadly presence. Engaging in one moment, withdrawn the next. Always polite, never predictable. This dissonance makes people pay attention because their brain can't settle on who you are. And in that space, that confusion, you become unforgettable. You're not just a person, you're a force they're trying to label but can't. That's what Machiavelli would construct. Not a man who's powerful, but a man who distorts clarity wherever he stands.